Hi, I'm Dan. This is Vinyl Fury, and another edition in the complete vinyl collection series. It's a little early. I just wanted to get started. I want to do several of these today. I haven't even had any coffee yet or anything, but I'm ready to go. Let's get back into this. We're picking up in 2002, and this is a double LP single from Duncan Sheik for the track On a High from his 2002 album Daylight, and it's mostly a bunch of like dance mixes and remixes, which I got for $1, I think, at some point. And as I've said before, I love Duncan Sheik, and there's some pretty interesting remixes on this. One by One from Foo Fighters. It took me a while to finally pick this up on vinyl. I think I kind of felt like I'd kind of heard enough of this, so I didn't listen to it for a long time. But then I finally did come back around, and I'm glad I did, because this was reissued, years ago, and it's pretty much been in print since then, since 2011. And all of these reissues were very good, and this sounded great. Definitely the best that I remember it sounding. I showed these not too long ago when I got this white version, but these are 2 copies of Diorama by Silverchair. This is the music on vinyl pressing from like 2014, which is okay. And this is from like a few years ago from Australia. This one's on white vinyl, and this definitely sounded better. And I still have both. But like I've said, I really love Silverchair. That's their best album, for sure. Beck, Sea Change, what an incredible album. And I did have the Mobile Fidelity pressing of this, which was really, really good. It definitely was a fantastic issue of this. And it's one of the first records that I sold because it was just worth so much at the time. And I knew that I would never pay that much for it. And if somebody out there would, my philosophy was, I guess they should have it. And, obviously, as long as it gets me that kind of money. And then at the time, I was like, well, I'll just buy more records. Because I also knew that whether or not Mobile Fidelity reissued it at some point, it would be reissued at some point. I'd have it again on vinyl. I was very confident in that. And then this came out, I want to say, 2016, and while it's not quite that good, it is still very, very good. I was pleased with it. Another one from One Line Drawing, which is Jonah Trango Far, one of his solo records. This is probably my favorite. It's called Visitor. Some of my favorite One Line Drawing songs are on this record, and this was limited to 500 on clear vinyl. What I thought was the first Iron and Wine record, The Creek Drank the Cradle from 2002. But like I showed recently, there was that kind of lost first album that had recently been put out by Sub Pop after 20 plus years. But that album is also very, very good. Another from Poison the Well. This is the first one that I really got into, Tear from the Red. I remember I was taking my first Greyhound bus trip. I was going to Texas, and on my way to the bus station, I stopped, I think it was at Hot Topic, and bought this CD, and I played that CD so many times on that trip. Yeah, this one has a special place for me, and this one is on red vinyl, limited to 1,000 from the first pressing. I also have it on a picture disc. I think at some point I found this fairly inexpensive on eBay and got it just to have it. It is pretty cool looking. This Weezer album, Maladroit, kind of an odd one, I want to say, in their discography. It came right after the Green album, which is kind of a big reunion album that did really well, and they turned this around really fast. And Dope Nose was a single that I didn't really love, but the rest of the album has some pretty cool stuff on it, especially like Space Rock and Burnt Jam. 13 tracks on this. I found this early on in my collecting journey at a record store for like $20. It was still sealed. And I thought it was a great find. I think there's only 5,000 of those. I still have that. So this is an interesting one. Vex Red is a band that I got into when they came out in 2001, 2002. I think 2001 is when I found some of their early songs, maybe demos. And this is their one and only album, Start with a Strong and Persistent Desire. The singer reminded me quite a bit of Daniel Johns from Silverchair. These guys are from the UK. And this record was produced by Ross Robinson, who I was really into back then. He produced a lot of my favorite bands. And I thought this was such a cool sound. Kind of like Silverchair in the rock vein, but then kind of like stabbing westward in the like pop side of electronic, like kind of dark goth electronic music. It was an interesting mix, and I still enjoy this record from time to time. They broke up not long after this, but I've actually seen them reunite in the past few years and put out at least a couple singles. But I found this on eBay for $1. I think it was an auction, and I ended up getting it for $1, which was incredible. It took so long to come, I thought maybe I'm never going to get it, but it did eventually show up. So for 2002, for an album from a band that was brand new, for it to be on vinyl at that time is very, very strange. But it turned out pretty well. So that's a cool one to have. Botch, an anthology of dead ends from 2002 as well. This was a Record Store Day reissue. That one's on clear vinyl. This one is fantastic. The Rescue by Code 7. I just recently talked about these guys in their last album in 2004. But The Rescue is how I really got into them. And they put this on vinyl about 11 years ago, and they did a good job. It sounded good. There's only 500, and there's only 100 of them that are signed. So to get this one was pretty cool. And they did a tour around this time. They hadn't been together for years. So I got to see them one more time, which is great. Cave In. I love Cave In. Kind of transitional sound. There's a lot of great songs on this Tides of Tomorrow EP. Another one from Engine Down. This is Demure. And this must have been the first record that I heard of them. And Pantomime was probably the first song, which I loved. And this, initially, I found this at Amoeba in the dollar section. And when I saw that, I had a visceral reaction. I was like, I almost jumped. I couldn't believe that it was in the dollar bin. Then I looked at the record and I realized why. It was really scratched up, like somebody had dropped it on the ground. And I was really upset, but I still got it. I had to have it because I had never seen it before. I never expected to see it. And then one day I found another one on Discogs that was somewhat reasonably priced, so I bought that. But as I'm looking at this, it looks like I kept the jacket of the one I found at Amoeba and put the other record in here, I guess just to keep a remnant of the one that I actually found. I don't remember doing that, but there you go. So 2002 has some big records for me. This is definitely one of them. Worship and Tribute from Glassjaw. And I'd had a different version of this before. I had a clear PVC outer sleeve to kind of mimic the original CD, but the PVC sleeves, they're just no good for long-term storage. And it wasn't a great pressing of it either. And then eventually Music on Vinyl pressed it, and it was much better. Glassjaw is one of my all-time favorites. Worship and Tribute is a big album for me. So is this. I was disappointed when At the Drive-In broke up, but we did get the Mars Volta and we got Sparta. And this is the first Sparta record, Wiretap Scars, also done by Music on Vinyl. This sounds great too. This was 1500 on Red, and this is number 1481, so right at the end of the run. But yeah, this Sparta record is really, really good. Here's another big one. The Parentheses album, Sigaros. This album is really something else. This pressing, I think, is from 2013, and I remember it being pretty good. There's been a few, and I think they might have reissued it pretty recently, but can't say enough, and I don't even know what to say right now about this record. If you're unaware, just look this up. It might change you, actually. And some of the early Minus the Bear. The first record, Highly Refined Pirates. And this is what I know about Being Gigantic. These were both reissued in 2011. And these were remastered by Bernie Grundman for vinyl. And they turned out really, really well. These are both editions of 1,000 on 180 gram black vinyl. This is a collaboration between Small Brown Bike and the Casket Lottery. They did this together back in 2002, and eventually this led to members of these bands coming together to form Abel Baker Fox, which I've talked about quite a lot, and are one of my favorite bands. Another from Jagged Jazzist, A Living Room Hush. This is the first album that I heard from them and fell in love with. I think I ordered this from the UK too. Several of these records I've had to do that. I really lucked out in finding a copy of this. This is a one-off band from Jonah Trango, again from Far and One Line Drawing. This is an anagram of One Line Drawing. The band's called New and Original, and they called this album Thriller, kind of a bold choice. And this came out in 2001. I really like this record. It's like, I don't know, around the time, kind of maybe compare it with Jimmy Eat World, those other kind of emo rock bands. There's some great songs on this. And this one is on a light blue vinyl. Oh, now we're getting into the Fugazi of the collection. This is the last one, The Argument, in 2001. Hopefully I don't have to explain what Fugazi is, but I do have, as far as I remember, all of their records, so we'll be showing more of those. Got this one not too long ago, Old Ramon, Red House Painters, 2001. This one was pretty damn cool to finally get. Telephone Tel Aviv. The album's called Fahrenheit Fair Enough, and this was reissued, was it 2016? Had been out of print for a long time. I remember seeing a copy of this early on, and I didn't get it. I regretted it. But then it finally was reissued. This is on Sky Blue, and I've showed this before. You know, and I talked about how I really don't want to open every colored record as I go through them because it takes so much time. And as I'm editing these, I notice how much time it takes to put the thing back together to move on, and it's just too long. But I have showed it before. It's a beautiful sky blue vinyl, and it's a great reissue of that record. Okay, so 07, Simple Things. 07 is a band that I believe I first heard on the Garden State soundtrack with In the Waiting Line, and then I checked out the whole record, and I really enjoyed it. It's like a down-tempo, electronic-based with pop vocals. Sia sings on this record. She had a big career on her own after this. This is from 2001, and this was reissued 4 or 5 years ago, and it's a great reissue on Warner Brothers. Of course, Amnesiac. This is a pretty recent pressing from XL that turned out really well. These have been definitely hit or miss for the last many years, but those recent repressings I enjoy. You know, even in 2001, when I was all about new metal and post-hardcore and stuff like that, I still enjoyed a lot of different music. And Craig David is an R&B singer that for some reason I really took to at the time. And he had an album at the time called Born to Do It, kind of cheesy. But there's some fantastic R&B songs on that. One of them was Walking Away, and I found this 12-inch single for, I don't know, maybe $3 in a record store one time. I got Fill Me In as well. I believe they were both from the same store. It was pretty standard, 12-inch DJ singles of these, but I used to have the full album, and I sold that at some point, but I kept those singles just to have around. Took me a while, but I did finally find a copy of Rock Action from Mogwai, and it wasn't super expensive. There is a little bit of a defect on, I think it's the first track. It's like a little bit of a bubble, but this has been really hard to find. It has been reissued, and I've even tried to get that at some point, and it's either all overseas or too expensive, But I did find this original pressing of it, and it's my favorite Mogwai record. Take Me Somewhere Nice really clicked with me back when I first heard it. And this is All the Suits Began to Fall Off from the Mercury program, which is the one that I found alongside A Day to Learn the Language, when I was just shocked to find that. And then this was right there with it. I wasn't even looking for this because I didn't think it was even a remote possibility that I would ever see it. There's only 220 of this, which is a black and gold mix. I guess I'll take that out. Not even sure how well you can see that. Yeah, it's shining behind it a little bit. Looks a little more yellow, depending on which angle you look at it. I think it's showing up more amber on camera, but it's like a smoky, dark yellow, black mix. Pretty interesting. Yeah, it was just an absolute shock to find that there. One of the, I think, defining post-hardcore records, especially of the early 2000s, Thursday, Full Collapse. This is like a 6th pressing that I got a few years back. That was good enough. And the Victory albums are usually pretty inexpensive. This might have been like $14, $15. Definitely worth it. This is, I think, the first Pelican EP. I think so. It's from 2001. And I found this for a pretty good price. I think it's definitely gone up in value since then, but it's a good find. This is the picture disc. There's only been a picture disc of this for some reason, of Lateralis from Tool. I suppose I'm going to have to open this one. It's a nice, thick jacket. Normal printed inner sleeves. Different versions of the cover art on this picture disc, showing the different layers. Definitely not a bad sound for a picture disc, especially. And I believe it's a slightly different mix as well. It originally came out in 2001. I think this came out a few years later. And although I've definitely seen stickers that say limited edition and stuff, I've never not seen it available. Debut album from The Shins, Oh Inverted World. Also found that on the Garden State soundtrack. Shangri-La-Di-Da, Stone Temple Pilots. What is this, their 5th album? And one that I enjoyed, I remember enjoying when it came out, and then I hadn't listened to it for quite some time. Saw that it had a music on vinyl pressing, went for it. Really enjoyed it when I listened to it again. It's a great pressing, and it was nice to reconnect with this album. It's their last great album. So this is Blue Screen Life from Pinback. Maybe their best all-around album. Definitely a fan favorite. And this finally got a vinyl reissue. Record Store Day 2016. There's only 2,000, and they definitely should have repressed this by now, because this is already just pretty stupid price on Discogs. And this one, I was able to have Rob Crow, the singer, sign for me up there. So this is a real nice piece, and it's on a really cool blue vinyl with black splatter. You can look that up, trust me on that. The Dismemberment Plan, I don't think this was ever put on vinyl originally in 2001. This is Change. I didn't get into the Dismemberment Plan until later. I didn't start really listening to them until about 10 years ago. This band and this album is just, it's really something else. It's got I think it has a unique sound to it. Everybody knows this. Parachutes, Coldplay. This is a reissue from a few years ago that was put out on Parlophone, and I think is a better pressing than the Capitol one that's been around for a long time. And I replaced that with this one. Another Engine Down. This is the first LP. It's called To Bury Within the Sound from 2000. I found this for like $5, and it was still sealed, because Engine Down is a band that a lot of people just don't know about. I think I really lucked out with that one. This is pretty cool. This is an original pressing of Mer de Gnome from A Perfect Circle. So this came out in 2000, and it was reissued on vinyl like 2008, I That pressing was around for quite a while. I had that. It was okay. And then I found an original pressing in a store, and it was like $50, and I talked myself out of it. But then I looked into it, and it looked like the original pressing was actually sonically better. So I looked around a bit, and then I found one that was like, I don't know, $30, $32, which is pretty reasonable, especially at the time. So I got that and replaced that Capitol. A lot of the Capitol Vault pressings just weren't that great, and this was one of them. But this does sound really good, and it's also like such a well-produced, well-mixed, engineered album. So yeah, glad I went for that. All right, home stretch here. Let's get through this. Kid A, another one of the later XL pressings, turned out very, very well. Love that record. Sigaros. This is a, oh boy, how do you even say this? I still don't know how to say it. I've tried before. Doesn't matter. I'll put it up on the screen. You probably know it. This is also a 2013 pressing on Pius, Played Against Sam, that I ordered from the UK along with the Parentheses album, and it turned out really, really good. This is a remastered version of Cave-In's Jupiter, which originally came out in 2000, and I had an original pressing, and it was all right. And then I heard about this reissue, this remastered version, and it does have a little more presence, and it also has an extra disc called Anomalies Volume 3, and it has some demos and stuff. So this was a great version of this album to get. Jupiter is just a phenomenal, big space rock album. Cave-In is just fantastic, and Jupiter is definitely a gem in their discography. Another one of those cheap Victory reissues. This is Designed for Automation from Snapcase, an excellent hardcore band. This was the first album that I found from them in 2000, and I enjoyed it. Great riffs. And we talked about Worship and Tribute a little earlier, and even more influential and seminal in my musical journey is Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Silence from Glassjaw. From 2000, this came out at just the right time for me in my life, and yeah, this album is really, really baked in there. Means a lot. Another big one from 2000, White Pony, Deftones. Huge. Huge for me, huge for them. This was a breakout album into the mainstream for them. And this one is also signed by all the members in 2011. Very cool. Another from the Mercury program. This is the first one that I got on vinyl, and it's from the Vapor of Gasoline. And this was available pretty easily, pretty inexpensively for quite some time, and it just seems like it disappeared. I think it's harder to get now. But another fantastic album from the Mercury program. This is a random thing that I found one day. It's Ronnie Jordan. It's called A Brighter Day remix with Mos Def. Mos Def, who I love. And this came out on Blue Note. So it's kind of like a jazz hip-hop collaboration. I don't even remember where I found this, but it was pretty awesome. And speaking of Mos Def, this is the single for Miss Fat Booty. And it also has Mathematics. So this was just ahead of the album, Black on Both Sides. Black on Both Sides is phenomenal. And I have had that on vinyl. It took me a while, and I'd been looking for it from day one of collecting. And I finally did get it. And it just didn't sound very good. And there have been some reissues of it. I don't know, but I don't think they're any better. But I did hang on to this single. So there you go. That is volume 9 of the complete vinyl collection. I'm going to keep going here today, film as much as I can, looking to get this series wrapped up before the end of the year. So I'm going to keep going. So thanks for watching. Until next time, take care, enjoy your music.